Hi there, the name's Nico, and today I'll be going over my tier list for the best and worst characters in Solo's Eternal Return. The tier list you see in front of you is a tier list I made over 1 month ago on July 31st, 2021. This was from the patch where Nathapon was just allowed it ranked. Nathapon was not that great on his release, and honestly is still not that good. There have been a lot of changes since the last tier list, notably to Cathy and Rozzi, so keep an eye out for them. I'm just going to expand on where characters should be placed on based off the last tier list, so if you want to know why they were placed in their respective tiers originally, I'd check out that video. With this in mind, let's begin. I'll be showing stats on screen, so here are the average stats that I base around. If a number is red, it means they belong in the bottom 20%, while if a number is in yellow, they belong in the top 20%. Green number means they have the best stat compared to all other characters, while dark red means they have the worst stat compared to all characters. First character I'll go over is Dagger Jackie. Jackie received some minor buffs, but this did not help Dagger Jackie one bit. Dagger's skill was nerfed once again, which makes Dagger Jackie even worse. The only thing she is good at is getting high placement because she can run away pretty easily. I'll have to move Dagger Jackie down to C tier. The next weapon type for Jackie is Two-Handed Sword Jackie. Last tier list I mentioned she was only good because of Smolder being good, and it turns out this was the case. Not only Smolder was nerfed, but also Lavatine got nerfed, which was Jackie's main weapon last tier list. Two-Handed Sword Jackie was moving down to B tier. The next weapon type is Dual Swords. Dual Sword Rampage had its animation cleaned up a bit, and there was a new Dual Swords added spring and autumn, but these changes did not help. The biggest change for Dual Sword Jackie was the recipe change for Loigor and Zar, requiring Sheath and Ash instead of just Poison. This was Dual Sword Jackie's main weapon, but this weapon is so hard to craft now that no one built it on her anymore. This is why Dual Sword Jackie is moving down to C tier. The last weapon type is Axe. Harp got buffed, which is Axe Jackie's main weapon, and Axe skill got nerfed. Santo Muerte received a nerf, and Scythe was reworked, but these are not Jackie's main weapons. Axe Jackie has been winning slightly more, but otherwise is the same. This is why I'm keeping Axe Jackie in B+ tier, but move her higher in the tier list. Next is Pistol Aya. The biggest change to Aya that impacts Pistol Aya was the nerf on her ultimate, Blank Cartridge. The biggest change to Pistol Aya was the pistol skill. The way that pistol skill was reworked was that it has a percentage-based cooldown reduction versus a flat cooldown reduction. Basically, holding onto pistol skill after using a skill is worse, and since no one uses all their skills at once, this is a massive nerf. Devil's Marksman had a major rework, but most Pistol Ayas at the time were building Magnum Boa. Hell was also buffed, but then nerfed because it was overpowered. These changes have made Pistol Aya significantly worse, which is why she's moving down to B+ tier. AR Aya is next. The biggest change to Aya that impacts AR Aya was the nerf to her passive, Aya's Justice. This makes AR Aya not have her shield up as often as before. Assault Rifles also lost some basic attack amplification per weapon mastery level, but even with these changes, AR Aya is remaining in A tier, and is currently the best Aya. The last weapon type for Aya is Sniper. Now I think I may have underestimated where Sniper Aya has been for a while, but I do think she is not the strongest Aya. Sniper skill received a major nerf and is now cellular damage, not spell damage. This hurts Sniper Aya a lot, as she is used to being able to do over half your health with Sniper skill late game. Plus, all the Sniper rifles got nerfed a lot. Aya ended up swapping to Polaris, but the intervention build still has some use. Sniper Aya has not been doing well because of this, but she is moving up because I think she was better than I said she was last patch. So she's moving up to B tier. Next is Glove Hyunwoo. Hyunwoo received some small nerfs to stop him from running so much. A bunch of gloves were buffed except for Mark of the Phoenix being nerfed in terms of its attack power. Attack power is not the problem with Mark of the Phoenix, it is Smolder. Smolder did receive a nerf, but it still does a lot of damage. But even with the nerfs, he has been doing better than before, which is why Glove Hyunwoo is remaining in A+ tier. I cannot say Glove Hyunwoo is S tier because he lacks in kills because of the way he plays. Tonfa Hyunwoo is next. Tonfa's skill is slightly nerfed, and they added a new legendary Tonfa that has the newest passive added to it, Primordial Hex. But Tonfa has been doing about the same as before, which is why he is remaining in A tier. The next character is Bat Magnus. Bat Magnus ended up going away because they found a better build on Hammer using Weight of the World, which also has focused impact. Magnus's bite cooldown got changed to only activate when he's hit by a player. This was added to prevent ratting. Bat Magnus has been doing worse, which is why he's moving down to B tier. The last weapon type for Magnus is Hammer Magnus. Hammer Magnus has been doing well. It turns out you don't need to build tanky if you can just one-shot someone with Amp. Magnus's main hammer, Weight of the World, was nerfed, but the nerf was really minimum. Aaron Magnus is moving up to S tier. Now we have Rapier Fiora. I'm gonna say Rapier Fiora is currently S tier. Fiora did not receive any changes, but has been doing insanely well due to the newest item added, Fallen Pegasus. This item is an upgrade of Crystal Tiara and is really strong, and I would have to say broken. The stats for all ranks in Plat Plus do not have this new item in them, so I have to judge top 1000 stats slightly more than normal. I'm sure when they nerf Fallen Pegasus, she'll not be as strong, but for now she is S tier. Spear Fiora is next. Spear has been doing really well, just not as well as Rapier. Spear received a minor buff to its weapon mastery scaling, but the main thing going for her is the addition to Fallen Pegasus. Spear Fiora is not doing as well as Rapier because of Rapier skill, but Spear Fiora is moving up to A+ tier. The last weapon type is Two-Handed Sword. None of the changes to Two-Handed Sword Fiora has impacted her that much. Aurora Longsword got a noticeable buff, but most Two-Handed Sword Fioras use Monohoshi Zao. Again, with all the Fioras, the main difference has been Fallen Pegasus, which is why she's also moving up to A+ tier. I'll say that Two-Handed Sword is better than Spear. Next is Bow Nadine. Nadine received a small nerf on her Q, but her W, Squirrel Trap, now allows her to put traps down instantly. This is a big buff to Nadine, as it used to take a second or so to set up the second part of her trap, but now that it's instant, she can roam the map more safely. Bow skill, Rain of Arrows, was nerfed as well. Nadine's late game bow, Argeotoxis, was buffed. Nadine is moving back up to S tier. The last weapon type for Nadine is Crossbow. Crossbow received some minor buffs and has been doing slightly better as a result, which is why she's moving up to A+ tier. Next is Zahir. I'll have to say Zahir is still A tier. I think a lot of people underestimate him in North America. Zahir received a nerf in the most recent minor patch, but I believe this relates to Shuriken more than Zahir. For Throw Smokescreen, Throw D-Skill was nerfed, and the weapons that build into Ruthenium Marble got nerfed to prevent early griefing. Zahir's number has stayed about the same as before. Shuriken Zahir is next. Shuriken's received a major rework in the last patch. Shuriken D-Skill, Caltrops, was reworked to do more damage on the first instance, but less the more you hit. Zahir's main weapon, Mystic J-Charm, was buffed to have more charges and charge faster. With the nerfs to Zahir and the rework to Shuriken, Shuriken Zahir is still sitting in A+ tier. Now we have Hart. Hart received no changes since the last tier list. Some Katars were buffed, but our main Katar, Teen Spirit, was not touched. Hart is moving up to S tier, as she's been doing a lot better than before. Next is AR Isol. Isol received a major nerf to his ultimate, Mock Operational Mine. He can only place one mine at a time. Isol used to stack mines on top of each other. This has significantly weakened him. Assault rifles were also slightly nerfed. With these changes, AR Isol is moving down to B+ tier. Then we have Pistol Isol. Pistol skill change has hurt a lot of pistol users, including Isol. Isol's main weapon before was Elegant, and it still is, but to a lesser extent. Block 48 is having a decent amount of use, which has been buffed repeatedly. But the main thing with Pistol Isol was his traps, and the nerf to Isol has hurt Pistol Isol more than AR Isol. Pistol Isol will be moving down to B tier. Now we have Gloved Li Dailin. Li Dailin received a lot of heavy nerfs since the last tier list. Her W does not silence for as long, but the biggest change was to her passive, Blood Alcohol Content, also known as Bach. Her passive does 20% less damage on her second hit compared to before. This has made it that her second hit does less damage than a normal auto. Some of the gloves Dailin uses got buffed, but the nerfs she received were a lot. Gloved Dailin is moving down to B+ tier. The last weapon type for Li Dailin is Nunchaku. Nunchaku received a new legendary weapon, Hydra, but the stats on it are not worth it to use a via blood sample on. Cerberus has a lot of stats on it that you would lose by switching to Hydra, such as healing reduction. But because of the Dailin nerfs, Nunchaku Li Dailin is moving down to B tier. Now we have Yuki. Yuki did not receive any changes. For Two-Handed Sword Yuki, Lavatine was nerfed because it was performing well. Lavatine has a lot of stats on it, but also is the Two-Handed Sword with Molder on it. Royal Longstorm was buffed, but is still not really used. Two-Handed Sword Yuki will remain in A tier. Next is Dual Sword Yuki. Dual Sword's got a new legendary weapon, Spring and Autumn, but this weapon is not that good. Dual Sword Rampage works correctly, but is not that good anyway. Dual Sword Yuki will remain in C tier. Hyejin is next. Hyejin received a lot of changes since the last tier list. Her Q was buffed, her W does more damage at a minimal charge, but less later. E was buffed for early game, and her ultimate's initial damage was nerfed, but the omens were buffed. Hyejin's passive was nerfed, so she does not fear people for as long. For Bow Hyejin specifically, her main bow, Elemental Bow, was nerfed a lot. Bow Hyejin is moving down to A+ tier. Then we have Shuriken Hyejin. Shuriken Hyejin is probably the biggest change from this tier list. Shurikens were reworked so that Caltrop's Shuriken D skill does more damage initially, but less the more shurikens the opponent steps on. Shuriken Hyejin's main weapon, Mystic J-Charm, was buffed and then nerfed in the most recent minor patch. The Caltrop's animation is a lot more fluid, which benefits Shuriken Hyejin a lot. The newest Shuriken changes are not updated in the all ranks and Plat Plus rank stats, so I have to rely more on the top 1000 stats. Even with the Hyejin nerfs, Shuriken Hyejin is moving up to S tier. Now we have Xiukai. Xiukai received a minor buff to his passive and a minor nerf to his Q, Lost in the Sauce, and W, Heavy Meal. For Dagger specifically, Dagger Spill got another nerf. It is hard to tell how Dagger Xiukai is doing in general because his use rate is so low that one or two good players can skew the numbers. With this in mind, I'll move Dagger Xiukai up to A+ tier. Spear Xiukai, on the other hand, is still S tier. Nothing about spears really impacts Xiukai. The nerfs Xiukai received were not enough. Next is Shuriken Sissela. Sissela received no changes since the last tier list. Shuriken's got a major rework. The biggest change related to Sissela was that Petal Torrent is now a Glacial Ice item. All the Shuriken Sissela's changed the Mystic J-Charm. Mystic J-Charm is honestly the best non-RNG Shuriken in the game, which is why everyone is running it, including Sissela. For the Shuriken rework, I cannot fully rely on the all ranks and Plat Plus stats because they do not have the Shuriken changes included in them. But Shuriken Sissela is still S tier. Then we have Throw Sissela. For Throw, the weapons that turn into Ruthenium Marble were nerfed to prevent early griefing, and Smokescreen of Throw's D skill was nerfed. Throw Sissela is remaining in A tier. Now we have Chiara. Chiara received some small nerfs to her E, Mania, and level 1 and level 2 Ultimate Plague. Chiara has not been doing well lately, which is why she's moving down to A tier. Adriana is next. Nothing has changed about Adriana since the last tier list. For Throw, Smokescreen, Throw D skill, and Fireball was nerfed. Fireball was often used as a weapon to switch to for Adriana's passive, and then use a different weapon for auto attacks. There were some Adriana builds with only Fireball as well. Adriana is doing slightly better, which is why she's moving up to B+ tier. Next is Shoichi. Shoichi received a nerf to the fluidity of his E, Risky Business. Dagger skill, Cloak and Dagger, was also nerfed. Shoichi is very ping reliant, so he does not do as well in North America compared to Korea. But with the nerf he received, he is doing significantly worse. I'll have to move Shoichi down to C tier. Then we have Silvia. Silvia received a lot of nerfs to her W finish line. Her passive Lumia Grand Prix was buffed, and the cooldown on her level 1 and 2 ultimate were lowered. The biggest change for Silvia is the pistol skill nerf and the Devil's Marksman change. Pistol skill was the most effective on Silvia because it could reset her bike, but now pistol skill does not impact the cooldown on ultimates. And Devil's Marksman does not have flat amp on it and requires a meteorite. A new pistol was added, Stampede, and it is not bad on Silvia because Silvia's passive has percentage amp on it. Silvia has reverted to Magnum Boa and Stampede. Silvia will always switch to Celt though. Celt received a major buff before it inevitably got nerfed because it was broken. Celt is still really good, and if Silvia gets Celt, she has a really good chance of winning. With all these changes in mind, Silvia is still S tier. She is still a good character, but cannot one-cycle you with her bike combo anymore. Now we have Emma. Emma is remaining in S tier. Emma's Q, Dove Dealer, was nerfed, and her W, Hat Trick, was reworked to not give a flat cooldown reduction, but a percentage space reduction. Shurikens also received a major rework. Uma Shuriken, Emma's second most used Shuriken, was reworked to not have extra basic attack damage or EBAD on it, but to have flat amp on it. Emma is still doing really well. Lenox is next. Lenox received a minor buff to her E, Whiplash. Thunderwork was reworked to have some percentage amp at level 1 and scale by 1% per level. As a Lenox main, I have to say that Lenox is not in a good spot right now. Thunderwhip used to be a viable secondary weapon, but with the nerfs to it, it is not as good as it used to be. There was a movement speed change that impacts all characters, but with the nerfs to White Crane fans' movement speed, Lenox struggles to catch up to people now compared to before. This happens even more during day and night 1 with speed gates. Lenox is moving down to B tier. Next is Rozzi. Rozzi received a major buff when they changed pistol skill. This is most noticeable on our passive, dual wield, in which her second shot does 10% more damage at level 3. Her W, Flutter, was buffed. Her Q was reworked and her E was nerfed. Held was buffed and then nerfed, which made Rozzi do really well. With these changes, Rozzi is moving up to A tier. Then we have Luke. Luke received a major rework since the last tier list, but the rework nerfed him more than before. Bat skill was also nerfed. Luke is pretty much doing the same thing as the last tier list, which is why he is remaining in B+ tier. Now we have Cathy. Cathy was also reworked, but her rework was a lot more significant than Luke's. Cathy received a lot of changes, most notably to her Q and R. She received a lot of changes, so I check out patch notes 0.39 for the changes. Dagger skill also received a nerf. With this major patch, Cathy changed from a crit user to a spell amp user. This is because of her passive on her Q, Double Bypass. Cathy on her major rework was an S tier character, but with the amount of nerfs she has received, I would have to put Cathy in A tier. A lot of people are playing Cathy, which skews the stats a bit. I think Cathy is fine the way she is now. Adela is next. Adela received a buff to the cooldown on her W, Night Fork. Rapier did not receive any substantial changes. I do believe Adela is a good character if her skill shots are landed, but Adela's not doing as well as she normally does, which is why she's moving down to A tier. Then we have Bernice. Bernice received a buff in which there is no delay on his basic attacks. All the sniper rifles except Polaris were nerfed, and this impacts Bernice a bit. Blackfire Cannon, the newest sniper rifle, has its unique passive on it, but Blackfire Cannon is not a good weapon on Bernice. Sniper skills changed to be cellular damage instead of spell damage, which is better for Bernice because he does not build spell amp. But sniper skill is worse in general. But having no delay on his basic attacks is huge. A lot more people have been playing Bernice lately. I assume it's because of the delay change, and he has been doing better. Bernice is moving up to A tier. Next is Barbara. Barbara received a reworked her Q, her W is buffed, and her E was severely nerfed. Her E, Magnetic Cyclone, no longer stuns but slows opponents. That skill was also nerfed. A lot less people are playing Barbara, but she's not doing significantly worse compared to before. Barbara will remain in A+ tier. Then we have Alex. Alex always has the most changes in patch notes, but to summarize, he received a lot of nerfs, the most significant being to his ultimate EMP barrage. The DPS on EMP barrage is lower as the duration of his ultimate is longer. Pistol skill was also reworked, which impacts Alex the least because a lot of his skills are on a longer cooldown, specifically his E, which he uses to swap weapons in combat. Health is really strong on Alex now, but not as strong as it was when pistol skill was reworked. Shurikens were also reworked. Petal Torrent requires a Tree of Life now, which has made Alex build Mystic G Charm instead. Tonfa skill was nerfed, and a new Tonfa was added, Obsidian Jite. This Force Core Tonfa has the newest unique passive added, Primordial Hex. Although this passive is not as good on Alex because there is a cooldown when switching to items, including weapons with unique passes on them, Alex has been building it. With all these changes in mind, Alex is remaining in A+ tier. They tried to kill Alex, but he is still doing really well. Now we have Sua. Sua received a nerf to the blind on her W, the Curious Case, and her ultimate W, Memory of Curious Case. Her main weapon, Fang Mace, was nerfed slightly. This nerf has to relate more to Magnus than Sua, but impacts Sua regardless. Sua is honestly doing average right now, which is why she is moving down to A tier. Leon is next. Leon received two changes. One is that his passive, Human Torpedo, was reworked so that it does true damage instead of spell damage. And the second is that on his E, Duck Dive, he can choose where on his puddle he wants to appear from. This gives him more utility than before. But because of his passive change, Leon's weapon is now Defined Fists. Imperial Silk Gloves, the Mithril Gloves, were slightly buffed. Leon does insane damage, but just not as much as before, which is why he's moving down to A+ tier. Next we have 11. 11 received a buff to her E, on air, and her ultimate Calorie Cyclone. 11's main hammer, Hammer of Dagda, was reworked to have less HP regen on it, but more extra basic attack damage. 11 is still not doing as good in solos. She is definitely a duos and squads character, even though Number Neuron does not want a just squads character. 11 will remain in B tier. Then we have Rio. Rio received some minor buffs to her passive Asetsu and her E Soar. Bow skill was nerfed to do slightly less damage. Rio's main bow, Ancient Bolt, was not touched. Rio has been doing better compared to before, which is why Rio is moving up to A tier. Now we have William. William's E SP cost was reduced so that at level 5 it cost him 0 SP to use. His ultimate was reworked to have a longer slow, but has a longer cooldown at level 1 and 2. A new throw weapon, Estray, was added. This is not William's main weapon, but it does have decent use. Throw skill Smokescreen was nerfed. Astray has been seeing more use lately because of the newest headpiece, Fallen Pegasus. Astray is a crit weapon and synergizes well with Fallen Pegasus. I think once Fallen Pegasus is nerfed, Astray won't be used as much. William is still a B tier character. Nicky is next. Nicky receives slight buffs to her Q, E, and ultimate. Her W reverse was nerfed to only activate against damage over time effects with on-hit effects such as Adriana's passive. This means that she cannot trigger reverse with Cathy's blade, Jackie's blade, and wick buff, etc. Nicky's main glove, Frost Petal Hand, was not touched. I think Nicky's very telegraphed, and if she misses a parry, she often will die. Nicky will be remaining in B tier, but at the higher end of B tier. Next we have Nathapon. Nathapon received some minor buffs to his Q, W, and E, but he honestly is not doing that well. Nathapon can get kills, but that's about it. He has the worst average rank, and he doesn't even have a win rate in top 1000. Nathapon will remain in C tier. If he didn't struggle to get kills, he would be in D tier. The first of the newest characters is Yawn. Yawn was not that great on his release, but I think this partially has to do with people getting used to how to play him and finding routes. Yawn is not doing that bad now, but I would definitely say he's not a top tier. Yawn is a Mark of the Phoenix, the Smolder Glove user, as well as a Blazing Dress user, which I do not find that interactive. Yawn is being placed in A tier. I think he is a solid character. The second of the newest characters is Ava. Unlike Yawn, Ava had a really strong release. She did receive some minor nerfs to her Q, Light Triad, and her ultimate, BF Eruption, but she's still really strong. Her main weapon, Fireball, was nerfed. I will be placing Ava in A+ tier. Her main thing is her E needs to be nerfed to have either a longer cooldown or not allow her to jump through walls, but I believe the former is more reasonable. Ava seems to be struggling in lower elos, but I do not know if this relates to people not getting used to her or people not knowing her playstyle. The last of the newest characters is Daniel. He is the newest character, so it's hard for me to judge exactly where he is because there are not a lot of pilots for him at the moment. People are trying to figure out the best build on him. I believe it is crit, but there are still some attack power and E-bad builds going around. Once people swap over to crit, I believe he'll be doing a lot better. But from what I've seen, Daniel is a B+ tier character. I think he does not need a lot of changes, but because people have not used the most ideal build on him, he probably will be buffed and currently looks worse than he is. If he is buffed, he will be very toxic to play against. Okay, now I'm going to put them in order in their respective tiers, with the best in that tier being on the left and the worst of that tier being on the right. Please keep in mind though, if someone is on the right side of their tier list, it does not mean that they are bad, unless you're talking about C tier characters, of course. It just means that there are characters that are slightly better than them, but they still all belong in the same tier. And yeah, this is the final tier list. I plan on doing this monthly since too soon means not much has changed, but later than a month is missing a new meta and characters. So if you like these types of videos, please give this a like and subscribe for more ERBS content. I hope to see you at the next video.